Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you're having a great week, and I hope you're doing well. So go ahead and leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. This is a great way to help out this channel. But if you want to do a little more, check out the link in the description to buy me a coffee, where you can make a one-time donation, or become a monthly supporter for $3 a month, as we are a viewer-funded channel and YouTube will not monetize us. By the way, the new episode of 80 After Dark came out yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, link in the description. And a big thanks to everyone who has already. You guys have really been liking it, so that's super cool. But with all that out of the way, let's see what we got today. We are live.
What do you feel about the crop circles?
They're cymatics of the Earth speaking to us. And what's interesting is there's videos where these little orbs come about, and then you see this design being drawn. And that those orbs, I've learned, are the compression of certain materials stacked on top of each other, which then create the orbs. That's where, like, all those people, when they're like, oh, there's all these ghosts over there. Well, there's actually compressions of certain types of materials which stack together, create a chemical reaction, and then you have this orb. But I believe with the crop circles that it's Mother Earth speaking to us. And when I started to look at all of them, I started to see designs. I started to see, like, inventions. I started to see actually a lot of things related to atmospheric energy. You know, I started to see alignments, like things like the eclipse and how, like, significant the eclipse is. Even here, we had 2 eclipses, you know, in 2 weeks. And if you stared into it, your energy goes through the roof. You know, so all these things that Mother Earth is trying to communicate with us. And like you said, we used to be tapped into this. We used to be able to see these frequencies, or at least tap into that. And we've disconnected and lost that. But the crop circles thing's just as wild, because they even said too that people will meditate in them. Their energy will go very high, or they'll notice all these plants thing. The plant growth is like wild. And they noticed like all these different types of rare plants popping up in that same spot. And Mother Earth is trying to communicate, tell you something, and you need to pay attention.
That's a very, very interesting perspective on crop circles.
The following are actual facts surrounding the mysterious deaths of top microbiologists over a decade prior to the 2020 pandemic. Professor Wiley performed biological research, sometimes jointly funded by the Department of Defense and the NIH. He was an expert on the human immune response to infection and had recently investigated several dangerous viruses, including HIV, Ebola, herpes, and influenza. Professor Wiley's body was recovered from the Mississippi River about a month after his disappearance. More biologists started to die under suspicious circumstances. Many were world-acclaimed scientific researchers specializing in infectious diseases and biological agents, such as anthrax, HIV, and DNA sequencing. As the body count of infectious disease experts continued to climb, connections to weapons research began to surface. By 2005, we lost 40 microbiologists in less than 4 years. Some were found stabbed to death in the trunk of cars, and some wrapped their cars around trees after their brake fluid disappeared. During this time, it was discovered that they all worked with the government or government contractors on projects related to bioterrorism, flu pandemics, or anthrax.
For entertainment purposes only.
What is this pineal gland that everyone's talking about, and what happens when you trigger it or activate it in meditation, as people always ask? Well, the pineal gland is a very interesting organ in your body, or gland as it is, and it's actually filled with fluid, and surrounded around there are very similar structures to that of the retina of the eye. Now, something which is very, very interesting about the pineal is that it's connected to the same sensory visual part of your brain as what your 2 eyes are. Now, inside this fluid, they say there are small crystals. And of course, the pineal gland is light reactive, but it is stimulated by darkness. Science has shown us that in darkness, the pineal is stimulated. This is why we dream at nighttime. When the eyes are closed, your pineal is the thing that conjures these dreams into you, or brings you into the dream reality, as it were. Now, with this little gland in your head, and it is, as I say, filled with fluid which has small tiny crystals within it, it is ultimately your connection to higher dimensions of reality. It is your connection to the spiritual plane. It is, as it was said, the seat of your soul. Now, the pineal gland, being that connection, is something that should be nurtured and looked after. And as I say, every religion, every scripture, every messiah, every spiritual teacher pretty much has leaned towards this, if not directly, then in a mystic sense.
Obviously more on that in an earlier episode.
NASA and modern astronomy say the Earth is a giant ball tilted back, wobbling and spinning 1,000 miles per hour around its central axis, traveling 67,000 miles per hour circles around the Sun, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way, while the entire galaxy rockets a ridiculous 670 million miles per hour through the universe, with all of these motions originating from an alleged Big Bang cosmogenic explosion 14 billion years ago. That's a grand total of 670,568,000 miles per hour in several different directions. We're all supposedly speeding along at simultaneously, yet no one has ever seen, felt, heard, measured, or proven a single one of these motions to exist whatsoever. NASA and modern astronomy say Polaris, the North Pole star, is somewhere between 323, 434 light years, or about 2 quadrillion miles away from us. Firstly, note that is between 1, 938 trillion, 2, 604 trillion miles, making a difference of 666 trillion over 600 trillion miles. If modern astronomy cannot even agree on the distance to stars within hundreds of trillions of miles, perhaps their science is flawed, and their theory needs re-examining. However, even granting them their obscurely distant stars, it is impossible for heliocentrists to explain how Polaris manages to always remain perfectly aligned straight above the North Pole throughout Earth's various alleged tilting, wobbling, rotating, and revolving motions.
So which camp are you in? Flat or globe?
We have been told a great deal of lies about our history. Probably one of the biggest is all the health benefits they removed from the past. While we're here filling our water bottles with microplastics, paying an ever-increasing premium for water, the past was using the miracles of radium. And they weren't just drinking it. There were many radium bathhouses all around the world as well. Yet not just the usefulness for health benefits, it was also used as a source of heating. Its potential was limitless, and its cost was minuscule. Compared to what we pay in heating costs today, shows why many of these fireplaces in the past were not set up to burn wood and atmospheric energy from the ether above. Radium was used for everything, from rubbers, chocolates and candy, razor blades. They even used it for their bathing, and they even used it to infuse their cigarettes in it. They tell us how bad the radium was, the stories of the radium girls, but they were using it in their fertilizers even. They were using it in their foods. How was it such a widely used source? And we're only told about the hyper-sensationalized radium girls. You see, there's a clear difference between man-made radiation and the naturally occurring radiation. That is actually quite safe. You can find many of those naturally occurring radioactive elements all around us day to day. But once the parasites came in and realized how much they could charge for energy, all sources like radium went out the window. It's all about profits for the few. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you start to look into it.
Cathodes, the ether energy. Antenna, amplifier, resonating moderator. You can see they had lamps. Let's enjoy together the beauty of the ether gathering technology of the whole world. Cathedrals are not what they want us to believe. Ether is a gift from God to mankind. Unlimited free safe energy in harmony with nature.
Activation. Connexion. Connexion. Activation.
Nothing new under the sun. Question everything then. Share the truth.
May it be
I've gotten deep into this before. If you haven't, you should check out those episodes. You know, a lot of you still haven't checked out episode 68 yet, and I really think you should. It's a lot more interesting than you might think.
Let's see what pilots think about Earth.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
No.
No? What did you see while we were up there?
Just the blue sky, white clouds.
Yeah, is it flat or?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat?
Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, God bless, brother.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature? No.
No? There's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
Casey, how are you, mate? Pleased to meet you, guys. There's no way this curvature. We're around the flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we? Thank you.
Most pilots know their plane is flying over a plane. A stationary plane.
Hier in Australië. En dan is, want dit ding behoudt zijn stand, dus dit blijft blauw en dit blijft bruin. Het is niet zo dat we opeens omklappen de verkeerde kant op. En dit was voor mij dat ik dacht, oh man. Waarom heb ik dat nooit eerder gezien na 25 jaar in cockpit? Dus zo geïndoctrineerd zijn we dus allemaal. Ja, het is toch, het is gewoon heel vervelend. Het is gewoon heel vervelend. Dat je daar al die jaren naar hebt gekeken en dat het kwartje nooit is gevallen. En ook, zeg maar, toen ik eenmaal wist dat de aarde plat is, dat je naar buiten kijkt en dat je denkt, waarom heb ik nooit gezien hoe plat het eigenlijk is?
Better late than never. Most pilots may have skipped over their training manuals. In their Flight Dynamics Summary, Section 112 explains all you'll need to know about what you're flying over. Heck, the military knows the same thing. NASA admits it as well. In tons of documents available to the public. They just assumed nobody would pay attention.
This guy makes an interesting argument.
Do you really think that they don't know what these are? Aw, that's sweet. Well, why don't you open up Google and type in US Patent 201701447566A1 and see what pops up. Oh, look at that. It's a US patent. Let's take a closer look. Oh, it's for drones. It's for 6-foot drones. How very interesting. 6-foot drones that just happen to have lights in the middle of them. Lights in the middle of them. And little landers. Little landers. That's so coincidental. Maybe, just maybe, they're creating a whole lot of hubbub because uncertainty creates fear. And fear is easy to control. What I recommend, though, is do some fasting and some praying and get your discernment ready, because I do think something is coming. Entertainment only, though, of course.
A couple of you in the comments have also said that they feel like something big is on the horizon. Maybe.
A lot of people ask me why their grandparents or great-grandparents never talked about the reset. Why don't they remember anything about it? Well, let me try to explain it. First, there were the Cabbage Patch Babies. Now, these weren't just toys, you see. They became a symbol of something much bigger, a massive repopulation effort after the reset. These babies, they weren't born the usual way. They were produced almost mechanically in large numbers and distributed through a cold, efficient system. Strange, isn't it? Brings to mind ideas like cloning, doesn't it? And maybe that's why today you see so many folks who just seem to go with the flow. No questions, no thinking. Did you know they say nearly half the population doesn't even have an internal monologue? Imagine that, living life with a quiet mind, just following along. Those babies, those orphan trains, they were shipped off along with abandoned children who had survived the reset, taken from their families, sent to faraway lands. Many ended up in America. And when they got there, they were given a new story, the official version of history. No elders left to tell them the truth. Nobody to remember how things used to be. It made them easier to control, you see, easier to accept the new narrative.
Pretty much, if you're a subscriber to this channel.
This California wildfire has quickly elevated to one of the worst things the U.S. has ever seen. Right now, they literally have bulldozers in the street moving all the vehicles because everyone who was in these vehicles got out their car and ran away on foot at about 800 acres. Houses, buildings, everywhere are just burning down. I'm gonna show you this in 1 minute and some other crazy stuff. And that minute is right now. Y'all, this is just completely insane. I feel so sad for all the people living here. On plain Earth right now, we have seen so much destructive events over the last few years than probably in the last 1,000 years. Again, a biblical parallel will be signs of fire, smoke, and vapor in the skies and on the earth below. Wow. And the amount of people that actually stayed in their homes blows my mind. There was a guy who took a picture of his back porch while it was going on. I didn't feel it was appropriate to show you that. And completely irrelevant, people reported these weird things in Beverly Hills last night. Completely unrelated. Remember the calendars? This right here is the stuff of nightmares.
No coincidences there, I'm sure.
You know, I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be, you know? I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
Well, Mel, there's already talk, and we played a couple of sound bites of reimagining the way rebuilding occurs. And obviously there's a great need for high-density housing in California and across the country. That's a big push by the climate folks. And you're already hearing rumblings of that. In this case, like goodbye single-family homes, hello high-density housing.
Yeah. It's pretty scary, and it'll take decades to do that too. It's like even if it, you know, if it's a good idea, which I don't know if it is, but reminds me of the old cattle barons clearing people off the land, you know. But I don't know. I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
Yeah, you know, I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say to them? Not big admirer of either, but there you go.
You want to with me? I'm going to take your souls. That's what it says on the mission statement. That's the truth. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
Yeah. Sure, there's no coincidences there, though.
Yellow, blue, yellow, orange, blue, green.
Technique called Vibra Vision helps you sense the vibration of various objects in the physical world.
All physical matter in the universe is actually a form of energy that's made up of atoms. And those atoms are cycling or vibrating at a certain frequency. Practicing Vibra Vision gives us the ability to access our sensors and to perceive those vibrations, and then convert it into a usable mental image we call mind sight.
Red falls on for me, please. Ready? Justin, tell me what's on this card.
Teacup.
And now tell me what's on this card.
Tiger.
Isabella, what is the shape and color of this stone?
Kind of like a circle, and it's not really, it's kind of like see-through.
Here's yet another example of how consciousness can interact with the physical world beyond what science claims to be possible.
When we work with the blindfold, it's so that we can encourage the children to use the vision that they have with their higher consciousness.
Evie, tell me the shape and color of the stone.
It's red and kind of a circle.
Yeah.
It's wild stuff when you start looking into it. My wife stopped wearing hers.
So I wanted to go through a little different electroculture antenna designs. Check all these. This is the fun part about electroculture, is that people are getting to use their creative side and create all different type of atmospheric antennas to boost their yields and get more food, right? Because every person should have abundance. Nobody should be suffering from food shortages. And my buddy on TikTok, he made this video and I just wanted to show it, all these different types of designs. He's basically messing around with copper and all these different beautiful materials to create these antennas, placing them down into the soil so that they can gather the atmospheric energy that's all around us, right? We don't need pesticides, we don't need fertilizer, we don't need Monsanto. We don't need any of the toxic sludge that they try to sell us. All we need is the beautiful energy that's all around us, the chi, the prana, the life force. And we can use these types of atmospheric antennas to harness all that so that we all can have abundance when it comes to.
Yep. It's a really good episode if you haven't seen it.
Of energy. We are electromagnetic beings held together magnetically at energy centers we also refer to as chakras. There is an energetic pathway called the Kundalini that starts from the soles of our feet all the way up through our chakras and up and out our crown. Think of yourself as a computer network with your heart being the Wi-Fi and your reality being your monitor. Your pineal gland, also called the third eye, is your antenna. This is what receives the vibrations that the universe sends out. Every time you think of something, this reality exists. It may not exist physically, but it exists energetically. You must fuel this potential reality with energy, and energy is not created, it is transformed. So you take your thoughts, you take your actions, you take your speech, and you direct everything towards that thought. You focus everything on your desired outcome, and you align your words and your actions towards it. If you think of what you want and speak of what you want and continue to do things that bring you closer to that reality, the universe will resonate that experience back to you. This is universal law.
It's a very interesting concept.
I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. I would love to be a homemaker and a wife. I would love to be able to live on a homestead and go milk my cow and take the eggs out of the chicken coop and have one baby in the belly and on my hip and another toddler coming behind me. That's like my dream, but I can't fucking do that because the way the economy is set up is I'm forced to work. I'm forced to get an education, a higher education, a college degree in order to make enough money that I can be financially independent and afford my own home or my own rent or my own gas or my own groceries, my own insurance. And it's extremely difficult to do that. And it's very isolating as a woman when you have to do all of that all on your own and you can't find somebody that you can outsource some of those chores and financial responsibilities like you would with a spouse. So no, being a single working woman absolutely sucks. It's the worst thing ever. I hate it. I would go back to the 1950s in a second just so I wouldn't have to deal with this shit.
You're talking about a traditional nuclear family where the woman doesn't work in a married household with kids.
And statistically, that was the case.
You're a single woman who isn't married with kids yet.
So I'm for it because of the way it is. Most women were married by the age of 21 up until the 1970s.
I think it's a woman's choice. Before that, it was societally encouraged to marry young.
Yeah, and it was better for women mental health-wise, long-term, to be able to go into that long-term committed relationship and have the established family instead of being forced to slave away for a corporation that doesn't like you, doesn't care about you, makes you sit under fluorescent lights for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. You get a lunch break, you get health insurance, but do you have somebody who loves you staring at you every day like your child? No, it's horrible.
I always kind of felt like it was a trick. It was a trap. It was another way to tax the other half of the population, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
Mouth Camels, the cigarette so many doctors enjoy.
The world's most thoroughly tested filter. That's Snow Fresh Filter Cool.
Cool.
Kearns uncovered how the sugar industry laid its own trap to deceive.
The sugar industry was very good at following a line that tobacco industry has done quite well in, which is to obfuscate science.
How the sugar industry paid experts to downplay health risks.
The sugar industry paid scientists to find either that sugar had very little to do with a range of public health outcomes, or more successfully, pointed the finger away from sugar towards fat. And that's why you had, through the 1970s, a very successful deflection by the sugar industry of regulation away from itself towards the regulation around the consumption of fat.
Are you making the most of your Marvel? Marvel makes cooking deliciously light and helps keep you looking just right when used in a calorie-controlled diet.
And so this started the low-fat craze. Example of that, skim milk. Turns out that dietary fat was actually good for us. Dietary fat actually suppressed cardiovascular disease. We took that out. And so basically, we engineered our products to be toxic.
And they didn't just make foods that were unhealthy. They actually promoted them as being the better choice.
Try delicious light and fit green. It's no ordinary non-fat yogurt. Be light and fit and satisfying.
In these folders.
Yeah, it's a big misconception that fat is bad for you.
Well, it's official. YouTube has just now banned anything related to health that doesn't align with the general medical consensus. So if any information related to health doesn't agree with the World Health Organization, they won't necessarily always take down the video, but they're going to change the algorithms. So they're going to replace those videos that were popular, that had lots of likes and lots of engagement, with medical information. This new partnership with YouTube is supposed to protect you against misinformation and promote high quality health information. And their definition of misinformation is anything that opposes their viewpoint. I mean, if you go to drberg.com, you will see that I have 7,607 success stories. I'm helping people. I'm giving people lots of non-toxic solutions. And if you just read the comments, you'll see that a lot of people are being helped. So my information is not dangerous. It's not misinformation. It's actually quite helpful. And this new change is going to hurt a lot of people because they're not going to be able to find alternative viewpoints, alternative opinions. Sometimes medicine doesn't work, and they're looking for inexpensive natural remedies to handle certain body issues. But guess what? Now they're going to have a very difficult time.
Yeah, YouTube censorship is out of control. If you're following this channel, you know exactly what I mean.
Mattresses are toxic, and you're sleeping on them for 8 hours a day. This is actually a large concern. Initially, when I transitioned to sleeping on a Japanese futon, I did it for that firmness. Like, that was the selling point for me, and it is the selling point for a lot of people. And through making videos, I've received thousands of comments, people talking about how it's improved their sleep, improved their lives. And then I started to see this thread of people talking about, like, oh, I switched to these beds because of chemicals. And the Japanese futon I chose to sleep on was also 100% organic cotton. So I was already kind of checking that box. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started to do more research on this and kind of, I feel like, uncovered like a huge issue that we have in society. And it's becoming more and more of a popular trend that we're seeing. I want to say this. There's a lot of things that are toxic. Almost everything in our society is toxic nowadays. And it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in this, like, don't drink tap water, watch what you're putting on your body from soap, polyester clothing, and it can kind of get crazy in some sense. But,
you know, that's one thing I don't think a lot of people even consider is their mattresses. Yoga pants, they have this forever chemical in them. You know, like I've stated many times, we are poisoned at absolutely every angle in this fucking place. It's absolutely insane. And then on top of that, you got the man sitting at Google there watching YouTube, censoring the hell out of everything. Like, you know, people have told me they've had to resubscribe to this channel, or when they hit the like button, it doesn't get tallied in the count. Things like that. They search for channel 80, it doesn't even show up as an option. It's ridiculous, you know. But yeah, you know, it's wild stuff today. You know, LA burning down. Like I said, I wish I could say I was sorry that Hollywood's burning to the ground, but you know, you know, I don't know. There's a big conspiracy saying that there was a lot of tunnels underground, and some of these people would rather see that place burn to the ground than, you know, come clean with the shit they did. But what can I say other than, oh my diddy, oh my diddy. But anyways, guys, that's all I got today. I will be back tomorrow, but it'll be on 80 After Dark, so come check me out over there. I'm done here for the week. I'll be back on Monday with something else. But until then, 80 Canadian, signing off.